Our next book is called The Snail and the Whale by Julia Donaldson. This is a tale of a tiny snail and a great big gray blue humpback whale. This is a rock as black as soot, and this is a snail with an itchy foot. The sea snail slithered over the rock and gazed at the sea and the ships in the dock. And as she gazed, she sniffed and sighed. The sea is deep and the world is wide. How I long to sail, said the tiny snail. These are the other snails in the flock, who all stuck tight to the smooth black rock, and said to the snail with the itchy foot, "Be quiet, don't wriggle, sit still, stay put." But the tiny sea snail sighed and sniffed, then cried, "I've got it, I'll hitch a lift." This is the trail of the tiny snail, a slivery trail that looped and curled. So you can see how all the snails are sitting on this black rock, and this fellow is moving out, slithering out. This is the whole whale who came up one night when the tide was high and the stars were bright. A humpback whale, immensely long, who sang to the snail a wonderful song on shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves. And this is the tale of the humpback whale. He held it out of the starlit sea and said to the snail, "Come, sail with me." This is the sea so wild and free that carried the whale and the snail on its tail to towering icebergs and far off land with fiery mountains and golden sand. These are the waves that arched and crashed, that foamed and frolicked and sprayed and splashed. A tiny snail on the tail of the whale. These are the waves beneath the waves, where stripy fish with fiery fins and sharks with hideous toothy grins swam round the whale and the snail on his tail. This is the sky so vast and high, sometimes sunny and blue and warm, sometimes filled with thunderstorm, with zigzag lightning flashing and frightening the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. You see how the tiny snail is sailing with the whale? And she gazed at the sky, the sea, the land, the waves and the caves, and the golden sand. She gazed and gazed, amazed by it all. And she said to the whale, "I feel so small." The snail is right here at the tail of the whale. came the day the whale lost his way. These are the speedboats running a race, zigging and zooming all over the place, upsetting the whale with their ear-splitting roar, making him swim too close to the shore. This is the tide slipping away. And this is the whale lying beached in a bay. Quick off the sand, back to sea, cried the snail. I can't move on land. I'm too big, moaned the whale. The snail felt helpless and terribly small. Then I've got it, she cried, and started to crawl. I must not fail, said the tiny whale. You can see how the whale is stuck on the land now. And the little tiny snail said he's on his way. This is the bell on the school in the bay, ringing the children in from their play. This is the teacher holding her chalk, telling the class, sit straight, don't talk. This is the board as black as soot. And this is the snail with the itchy foot. A snail, the teacher turns pale. Look, say the children, it's leaving a trail. This is the trail of the tiny snail, a silvery trail saying, save the whale. Ah, so the clever snail went into school and was slithering across the blackboard with a trail which said, save the whale. These are the children running from the school, fetching the firemen, digging a pool, squirting and spraying to keep the whale cool. See how the little snail got everybody's attention to help the whale. They're putting the water on the whale to keep him safe and digging a pool for him. This is the tide coming into the bay, and these are the villagers shouting hooray as the whale and the snail travel safely away. So they have managed to rescue the whale, and the snail, still sailing on the whale, is going. Back to the dock and the flock on the rock. Who said, how time's flown, and haven't you grown? And the whale and the snail told their wonderful tale of shimmering ice and coral waves, the shooting stars and enormous waves, and how the snail, so small and frail, led her looping, curling, silvery trail, saved the life of the humpback whale. Then the humpback whale held out his tail, and on crawled snail after snail after snail. You can see how many more snails have climbed onto the tail of the whale. And they sank to the sea as they all set sail on the tail of the grey-blue humpback whale. The end.